Okay, here we go. All right, guys. All right, so this is sort of a continuation of my Operation Chaos stuff. And one of the things that I keep, especially if you listen to Alex Jones, which I don't think you guys do. One of the things I noticed was, hang on a minute. Okay. Something is weird outside my door here. Okay. I'm near a wall, and I just don't want certain people to hear me because I really don't like them to begin with. And they're not even from here, so I think they. Okay. I just don't know how the State Department let them in, but it was under Biden. So, okay. So getting back to this Operation Chaos shit, getting back to this shit with all the players involved, I think it's going to implode. And I think whatever Trump and his people, his intelligence services are doing right now, I am. Hang on a minute. Okay, what on Christmas? What would they be doing? I mean, they're not Christian. All right. Well, hang on. What? I hope they're moving out, but I doubt it. Okay. 10 times they've opened and closed the door since I started this. I don't want to have to pause this thing and come back because I already did it. I deleted the first one. Okay. So, all right. So we've got this going on. And, we're having to deal with this. And more things are clicking. Now, a lot of people think that, are saying, well, Kirk is like a crypto Jew. In other words, I don't, if he wants to be Jewish, that's fine. I don't care. But don't lie to me about being this Christian. But what I believe they were doing, and then they were trying to tie in, like I said with my last video with Candace, like they keep putting in a monstrance with relics in it, and you're not even confirmed. Like, first of all, you have to get your hands on the relics. And then I have to be very careful. I mean, I had relics with me twice. And was it the first or second time? I had some very strange things happening to me to the point where I gave them back early because you could keep them for a week. If you were praying about something or whatever. And it was St. Teresa of Avila. And it was part of her clothes or something like that. I'm not joking. There's some weird traditions out there, but you have to be really entrenched in faith, or, I mean, it just screams to the devil to come and get you, and then you've got to try to fight against it. And this, what Carlson's speaking about, like being attacked by some entity in his sleep. I believe that did happen because I believe he's a creep, and that's in one of my long videos. Just skim over and fast forward if I'm talking too much. So this is a priest who clearly is older. He's been around. He knows what's going on. It's on the Jeff Renz show, but we're going to do a few minutes of this because he says some very important things in here. Okay, so let's proceed. And then, I'm sorry, I got off track there. We were talking about Kirk and like people like the Candace people and all this shit, where they're trying to mingle in Catholicism in here. And I'm going to ask that they don't, because someone that is deceiving intentionally is not of God, I mean, that would be like me coming on here. And, I mean, I'm not one who deceives or lying about something intentionally or playing this big, huge psyop. And when I look at Candace, what I see is, and this is in my video where I'm swearing and going nuts, is a person that is definitely being used as an operative and is in so deep she can't crawl out. And I think the biggest issue or problem or whatever I have with that is that she has 3 kids and she is so heavily connected to just a clear operator entrenched in MI6, which is her husband, and her father-in-law, who's the metals trader, gold, copper, all this shit for the House of Windsor. I mean, you can't get more high up than that. So, but she bases her whole career on the fact that she thinks Bridget McCrone has a dick. Now, granted, I think Bridget McCrone is weird. She doesn't really have the body of a dude, but I don't know. She just looks like an elderly woman who wears a wig. Okay, let's go. Here we go. Let's get into this. And then how Kirk tries to shove Judaism. They keep saying Judea, Christianity. No, I don't know what that means. That means that there are Jewish people and Christian people. But you can't be. Now, there are a couple of faiths that tie this together. One is Seventh-day Adventist, the Mormon Church. These people are kind of like one foot in the door of Judaism, but let's keep it. But this is not an anti-Judaism video. I'm just saying this stuff is all being shoved at us over and over and over again. But nothing is changing, like politically or policy-wise or in this country. Matter of fact, like there's something on X saying murders are down and all this crap. Geez, we've had a huge crime wave in this city this week. I was surprised. Again, I got robbed again yesterday. And this one pissed me off because I had a ton of stuff. It was a huge order. I put it off until Wednesday because I didn't want it. It would have all come in different bits and pieces. I'm trying to get a credit. It was like $150 worth of shit. I'm pissed. And it wasn't something, and it was heavy. Some of the stuff was really heavy, and it wasn't like something that a person could just easily run off with, because we do have some people walking up and down this street. And just doing very weird things. And there was just a part of me that said, I woke up this morning, I just said to myself, well, I'm fucking done living here. I can't handle it. And then I remembered that what's the diff? I had a major crime committed against me in a small town. That was even worse. So I don't know, there really, the judicial system is being run by fucking Pam Bondi. And then you have these pieces of shit in our CIA, FBI. I don't know what Gabbard is doing. I don't know what's going on, but this crap, I don't like it. Like using the intelligence services to try to fool and fuck with the brains of people. Holy crap. Okay, let's go.
All right, welcome back. And for those of you who are in the Catholic Church and of the Catholic religion, we have Father Paul Kramer on tonight, as we do often. And if you're not, you're lucky anyhow, because we get a world view from Father Kramer that nobody in today's Vatican is going to bring forth. Pope Leo XIV, to me, looking more and more like a snake, doing dirty things, kind of like a velvet hammer. He's not a good guy. All right? There was no turnaround. There was no directional change. This is Bergoglio all the way, and it's getting worse. More and more pagan references, more and more citations of things that shouldn't be even talked about as being worthy. It's just not a good situation. Hello, Father Kramer. Welcome back. How goes it?
Uh, uh, Unfortunately, things in the church and in the world are just getting
It gets better.
worse and worse. And where we would have expected and hoped for some remedy is not coming from there.
Father Kramer, can you try and talk a little louder? Or Todd, he sounds a little muddy to me. I'm not sure how he sounds going out over the air. But speak a little louder if you would. Maybe that'll change. We don't have the best line tonight. Not so far. Let's see what it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Do you hear that?
Is that?
Yeah, now you're good. Now you're good. What'd you do? You did something.
I think I changed the position of my hand on my device.
Yes, take your hand off the microphone. Perfect. All right. Good. Now you sound like the regular Father Paul Kramer we all know. Okay, so go back and restate what you just said, if you would, please.
Things have gotten worse in the world, and those places from where we expected the remedy, it is not coming from there. There is no remedy coming from there. In fact,
nothing.
Both in church and state, we find the support is being given to the source of the evil rather than that of the remedy and of the good. That's what's happening now.
No. And I'm afraid it's only going to continue down the same path. We're stuck with this guy. I don't know how much damage he will do during his term. He might be around for 20, 25 years. I don't know. Nobody knows except God, and he's not talking. But things are not looking good. Are there any efforts being made that you can see might have a chance of at least getting these people to slow down? Hey, we know what you're doing. Knock it off kind of thing. What can we do? And I'm not a Catholic, but I'm concerned. You got 1.2 billion people in the church, and that's a lot of people.
We find already Bishop Strickland speaking out more strongly, warning about what this so-called Pope is doing. And that's a very good sign, because there are so many truly rotten bishops in the church. They are in the church, but not of the church. As the Apostle St. Paul says, they are, or was that? No, that was. Well, it's
in the church, but not of the church. Absolutely correct. Yes,
they are. They are not of us. They never were of us. They weren't with us. They are of us. They're just among us.
So when did the major penetration of the Vatican and the church hierarchy actually get started and begin to make the progress it's unfortunately made? When did this happen?
Well,
70s, 80s? When did it really start? When did you notice it?
It gained momentum when the Soviet communists, using the Communist Party of the USA, infiltrated the American church and sent men into.
This is key. I'm going to put it back. Hang on, because this is a big deal here.
The seminaries and the
hierarchy actually get started and begin to make the progress it's unfortunately made. When did this happen?
Well,
70s, 80s? When did it really start? When did you notice it?
It gained momentum when the Soviet communists, using the Communist Party of the USA, infiltrated the American church
Okay, so like he said, it gained momentum when the American Communist Party, or excuse me, Communist Party USA infiltrated the church, right?
and sent men into the seminaries. And the famous convert to Catholicism from communism, the Beladad, the Jewish communist, who became a very staunch Catholic, she said
Uh-huh.
that the Communist Party had sent young men into the seminaries, young communists into the seminaries to infiltrate, to become priests, and eventually became bishops.
So they're playing a long game, and they have been. All right.
So we're talking about they're entering the seminaries like in the 1950s, 60s, becoming bishops like by the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is this, that this archbishop who became a cardinal, Jean Jadot, before he came to Rome, returned to Rome, he had been in the Vatican's diplomatic corps and had been the apostolic delegate, which eventually became the apostolic nuncio, the apostolic nuncio to the United States. So it's basically the Vatican's ambassador to the United States. But not only is he does the apostolic delegate or the apostolic nuncio deal with the with the government of the United States in diplomatic matters, but with all the countries of the world, they are there to coordinate with the church hierarchy, and that is perhaps even their most important function. And when he returned to Rome, he boasted that when he came to the United States, he found a conservative hierarchy, and when he left, there was a liberal hierarchy. He was instrumental in replacing all the resigning and retiring bishops with new bishops, and replacing the conservatives with the more modernist, the ones who are the destroyers of the faith.
Right.
Now, the good sign is this, though. There are many bishops out there who are somewhat confused.
Confused.
They've been propagandized. There are many who are victims of propaganda.
Right.
I've spoken with many bishops. I traveled.
Well, I think most of the American people are victims of propaganda right now. See, I think yeah, these people, they infiltrate governments, they infiltrate religions, and they do massive damage. And that's the entire intention of a lot of this stuff. Let's keep going.
In many parts of the world, mostly in South America, North America, and Europe, and we focused on the Vatican also. Talking with bishops about the message of Fatima and the crisis in the church, and I was pleasantly impressed by the number of bishops who were poorly informed, were victims of propaganda, but yet still had the faith. They still believed in the apostolic tradition. They still believed in the sacred scriptures. And they, I and my team, we brought facts to their attention. It produced a positive reaction in them. It motivated them to make at least redouble their efforts to help restore the proper discipline and faith in the church.
Right.
And in the Vatican, I visited with many bishops and cardinals, and the one that I went who introduced me, the man who was for us the door opener, was a bishop by the name of Paul Coari. His cousin was a cardinal. I don't know if he's still alive or not. I'm not sure, but I haven't checked my information on that. But his cousin is or was a cardinal. He was from Lesotho in southern Africa. At the time, he was the bishop of Leribe, the principal diocese in that small country.
Right.
And he had worked in the Vatican for 12 years. And I remember speaking with him and with the bishops, and we spoke of the unanimity of prophecy, that of what is happening in the world, what is happening in the church, what this is all leading to. And you would be surprised how some of the bishops, not all of them, some of the bishops and the cardinals were very grateful for us having come to bring this information to them, to brief them on what is the situation of the church and what we find in the message of Fatima, backed up by the teaching of sacred scripture in the New Testament, both the New Testament and the Old Testament, which uphold, which are the foundation of the message of Fatima. So I was very pleasantly surprised. There was one bishop, an archbishop in the I've forgotten his name. This was almost 20 years ago. And this archbishop, I think at the time, he was the one who was in charge of the Vatican dicastery called the Propaganda Fide, on propagating the faith, the church, coordinating all the church's missionary activity. And I explained to him that about how the message of Fatima, Our Lady of Fatima, warned about these errors of Russia, which were the errors of communism. And I pointed out how communism had fallen in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had self-collapsed, and the emerging Russia is no longer the state quasi-religion of communism. The anti-religion of communism was no longer the anti-gospel of Russia. I said, but those organizations and groups that created communism, they're still very much around.
Okay, right here. The groups that created communism are still very much around, but let's continue. This is important. No, I'm not talking about Putin.
And of course, I could sum it up in one word. It's called Judeo-Masonry.
Okay, right here. All right, if you're still with me, Judeo-Masonry. That's kind of what we've got right now. That's what we have in Charlie Kirk. That's what we have in a lot of these people. But in Kirk, who supposedly is like, I don't know, ready for canonization. The most important topic ever. I was doing, I was just sort of, I listened to an interview with Cheryl Hines on CHD. And I said, oh, geez, I wonder how old she is, because I think she got a little bit too much work done. And makes her look worse. But anyway, she was born in 1965. And then I just wanted her date of birth and blah, blah, blah. And, just a quick paragraph so I could sort of, have some context with what she was saying about her past, her upbringing, and going to LA and all this stuff, becoming an actress. And in the opening paragraph of her Wikipedia page, it says she attended, and then it was underlined with a link, and it said she attended the funeral of the assassinated Charlie Kirk. I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Frankly, I don't think anybody was there to begin with. I think it was all staged with a bunch of AI crap. I mean, maybe they had the event, but it was the most stupid thing I've ever seen in my life. Fireworks for a funeral? For someone that, quite frankly, didn't generally get more than 50 people at one of his college gigs, but yet was running pretty much a Clinton Foundation-esque, formed the same year that Clinton started using it for their own, paying themselves, a type of charity where you can pay yourself a higher percentage of what you bring in. And their expenses for, I think, a couple of years ago, it was sort of like they brought in 85 million and their expenses were 81 million. So who exactly are they giving money to? How are they helping the world become a better place? With $4 million freaking dollars? Come on, give me a break. I mean, just look at the price of everything right now, and housing and, energy. Yeah, gasoline is down. It's been staying steady at $2.59 here. It's the same price like everywhere in this neighborhood anyway. It goes up and down. But under Biden, it was close to $4. Groceries, however, seem to be more and more and more expensive, and quality seems to be going down. That type of thing. But like, who are you donating this $4 million to? A candidate? Like just a few candidates here and there? I don't know exactly what's going on with these people, with TP, toilet paper. But according to finance experts that are accustomed to dealing with and setting up these types of charities, and it's a 501c4, and then they've got TP Faith, Toilet Paper UK. I mean, it's just, its tentacles are pretty big. But they tie all this Judeo stuff in. I'll show you in a minute. We're going to go back. Okay, let's do it.
An archbishop in the I've forgotten his name. This was almost 20 years ago. And this archbishop, I think at the time, he was the one who was in charge of the Vatican dicastery called the Propaganda Fide, on propagating the faith, the church, coordinating all the church's missionary activity. And I explained to him that about how the message of Fatima, Our Lady of Fatima, warned about these errors of Russia, which were the errors of communism. And I pointed out how communism had fallen in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had self-collapsed, and the emerging Russia is no longer the state quasi-religion of communism. The anti-religion of communism was no longer the anti-gospel of Russia. I said, but those organizations and groups that created communism, they're still very much around. And of course, I could sum it up in one word. It's called Judeo-Masonry. Became a cardinal.
Oops.
And they came from New York. Judeo, communism, the anti-religion of the caste, uphold, which are the foundation of the message of Fatima. So I was very pleasantly surprised. There was one bishop, an archbishop in the I've forgotten his name. This was errors of Russia, which were the errors of communism. And I pointed out how communism had fallen in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had self-collapsed, and the emerging Russia is no longer the state quasi-religion of communism. The anti-religion of communism was no longer the anti-gospel of Russia. I said, but those organizations and groups that created communism, they're still very much around. And of course, I could sum it up in one word. It's called Judeo-Masonry. And the emphasis, of course, is on the term Judeo, because as I've explained very well and documented very well,
Yes.
that certain socioeconomic, quasi-religious, ethnic group have been behind the subversive movements of the world for many centuries. And
right. Yeah.
They came from New York, they came from London, Germany, and such, but they came from New York in particular with Trotsky and such, and came into Russia and overthrew the Russian government and instituted communism.
Yeah.
In Russia, where you previously had a Christian government
Okay.
for many centuries, called Judeo-Masonry. And the emphasis, of course, is on the term Judeo, because as I've explained very well and documented very well,
Yes.
that certain socioeconomic, quasi-religious, ethnic group have been behind the subversive movements of the world for many centuries. And
Correct. Yeah.
So what he's saying is, first he called it Judeo-Masonry. Then he said these types have been behind. Hang on. Let's go back to exactly what he said. Hang on a minute.
They came from New York, they came from London, Germany, and such. But
okay, so like none of their names, they all have Jewish names. Netanyahu's real name is Milikowski. He's from Poland. He's Polish. Like Marx, I think his last name was Mordecai. All these people, they changed their name. They went in, they, were already, quote, radicalized by this communism, by this Judeo-Masonry, and they went in and they overthrew the Russian government. Okay? But that's not what Charlie Kirk taught us, is it?
They came from New York, in particular with Trotsky and such, and came into Russia and overthrew the Russian government and instituted communism. In Russia, where you previously had subversive movements of the world for many centuries. And they came from New York, they came from London, Germany, and such. But they came from New York in particular with Trotsky and such, and came into Russia and overthrew the Russian government and instituted communism. In Russia, where you previously had a Christian government, a Christian empire. And so the message of Fatima.
We can go back there, but let's just think about this for a moment. And I started a video, which I never posted, because Charlie Kirk, whoever he was, I don't even think he was real. Like, I think that was just a front. And no, I don't think he's dead. But I know you guys all do, or most of you do. You probably believed in the Branch Covidian. Okay, that's what I call it. Okay, so he taught the exact opposite with Ted Cruz. So he's talking about Judeo-Masonry. So let's just think about this and how it infiltrates and overthrows stuff. Now, please note, Trump's chief of staff was in Israel and helped to get Netanyahu reelected, even though he had scandal after scandal going on. And the people really don't. Oh, crap! I gotta take a look at this damn phone call. Okay, let's do this. Oh my. Oh no. Here, I think this might be a. Wow, this sucks if I can't find it. No. Wow. Crap. Let me go on my bookmarks. Crap. Okay, Ted Cruz, Charlie. Well, it's gone. Okay. Shit. Let's see. Well, I know I have it. Damn it. I had it ready, but okay. Oh, that's not it. Okay. Okay, so they did an interview where there was such huge misinformation that was put out. Oh, no. See what I'm saying? There's so much there that you think it's real, or some people do. Look at this pig. Speaking to Scott Pressler, not really. I don't want this. Emotional tribute. Are you serious? Wow. So this was here. Oh no. The Bongino report. What a fucker. Stephen Gardner is really bad too. Of course, he's Army Intel, right? I can't believe I lost this. It's probably on my bookmarks. I can't believe this. Right, I'll find it, I guess. Let's they're all remembering him. That's nice, even though he's still alive. Let's go here. tragic, this, that, and the other thing. Okay. Same shit. It's not even forwarding me. It's the same crap. Oh my God. I'm pretty sure I can't cope with this. Okay. Okay, we will look for this, and I will play this particular one another time, but it contradicts the truth. Everything he says contradicts the truth. So let's go into YouTube. Wow, I have everything all set, and then I don't, right? Okay. Well, wow, this isn't even funny. This is just pissing me off now. Well, let's try this.
Hebrew barak, barak meaning to kneel down in favor, set apart and made holy. This
realistic, there is this gift that I believe the Lord gave the Hebrews that we have decided to just gloss over. And it's very simple. It's that for one.
I dislike him with every single micro cell of my body and every single organ system. It is so hard for me to look at this horrible creature who I don't even think was heterosexual. I'm going to go ahead and tell you.
One day you will stop. That it will be holy. That it will be different. For those of you that are agnostic or not Christian, I still encourage you to do this. People that honor the Sabbath live longer. We know this are the Seventh-day Adventists. They actually are happier. They have better health outcomes. Everything about disconnecting from modernity is good for you. It isn't arguable. Like this is a material fact. But why is it that we have forgotten it? Well, for me personally, I work like crazy for 6 days. On Friday night to even Sunday morning, I turn my phone off and I try to stop. I try to make it distinct. I try to make it different. It's where I do my
every Friday. He turns everything off. And he's totally bald too. This is a piece too. How would you, this is just dumb. He's just dumb.
Is that we have forgotten it. Well, for me personally, I work like crazy for 6 days. On Friday night to even Sunday morning, I turn my phone off and I try to stop.
You say you work like crazy. What exactly is it that you do? Like, are you a nurse? Are you a doctor? No, you just sit in a chair with a microphone and you preach misinformation to supposedly teenagers, but they don't know who the fuck he is. All right.
Stop. I try to make it distinct. I try to make it different. It's where I do my best thinking. It's where I do my best time with my family. And again, this kind of goes back to, okay, we're trying to create all this new stuff. Like, wow, we're going to have this new technological innovation. We're going to have this vaccine, and we're going to be able to solve this with
vaccine. Oh, is he? You know what? If this guy doesn't creep you guys out,
quantum mechanics and quantum computing, and I'm kind of like,
what does this have to do with anything? Is that what you do? You listen, what do you go on your phone and you read text messages all day and that's working like crazy? Really, what did he do? He wasn't on my radar at all, ever. And I actually had a paid position with the RNC in 2012. And I always worked. I always volunteered. I have no knowledge of him ever making. I know that I remember disliking him quite a bit because he was against Trump. He was never Trumper. Now all of a sudden he's his best friend.
honestly, something was told to us on Sinai that we shouldn't forget.
Later, when God gave his law to Israel, he included the Sabbath again, not as something new, but as something they had forgotten. Remember the Sabbath day. the sea. Yes, the Sabbath day,
Ugh.
meaning it already exists. Slaves in Egypt.
Wait a minute.
It ties directly back to creation. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt. Commanded you to reminds us of and redemption.
This shit.
Some say Jesus ended the Sabbath, but the Bible shows the opposite. Jesus went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom.
Yeah, didn't he throw the temple, the shit around? So basically, what they're trying to do is they are trying to do Judeo-Masonry. They are infiltrating you. You think he's a Christian. You think his message is good. You think all this shit happened, but really what they're trying to do is implement and confuse the fuck out of you. And if you let it confuse you, it will. And you have to hold strong. And if you can't talk to people about it, don't talk about it at all. This is a synagogue, a temple.
The Sabbath was made for man, Greek anthropos, anthropos meaning human being, not man for the Sabbath.
Now, see, they're tying a rosary in again with this stuff. Wow.
So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. This is huge. Jesus said it was made for humanity, not only Jews. He called.
So what they're trying to do is they're trying to tell you should be like a Jew, even though you're not. This is very confusing. Plus, they're giving you a huge black hole. Plus, they're putting people like Candace Owens in front of you with all her symbolism, which I find to be, if you watch that and you are Catholic, I believe that that is satanic. I mean, that'd be like watching a witchcraft ceremony just for the hell of it, or casting a spell on someone. It's the same thing for me. This is dangerous. So these people have really taken over. Now, I wanted to bring something else up, which is kind of off the wall. And it ties in, but then again, it doesn't. Now, people are always saying that Trump is like controlled by Israel, blah, blah. Well, yeah, he is, because of crap like this. And now we're supposed to follow someone or remember them, and it's just plastered all over everything all the time. And I'm like, what in the absolute fuck is this shit? Nonstop. 24/7. I mean, good luck finding a video that doesn't even talk about this. It's all over every single creator on Rumble. And if you go against it, you're not going to have a sponsor. You're not going to do this. I mean, you're going to be done. People are going to think you're crazy. Well, you're going to lose your income. Well, I don't make income off this fucking thing. And I know it's suppressed. Everything I do is suppressed. And that's fine. I don't care. Good. Okay. Where else do I want to go with this? So everyone said Bush is bad. The Bushes are bad. Oh God, they're bad. Everywhere you go. Yet they sure as shit weren't as bad as what things are now. So there are many people that, or there is one guy that has said that he used to work, he's Larry Wilkerson on Judge Napolitano's show, where he speaks about when he worked in the Bush 1 administration. how Bush had lamented that when he went to Madrid, Spain, and he tried to get a peace summit going between Palestine and Israel, that he was punished for that by being denied a second term. And that's why they put the cocaine king of MENA in there, i.e. Bill Clinton. And now you have Dan Bongino in there covering all this shit up. Another guy that pretends to be Catholic, another Judeo-Mason. I mean, you just look at that guy and you know he's evil. Let's see if we can find this. And they're giving you bad information. It's not even real. So this is Charlie Kirk. Senator Ted Cruz breaks down the hatred of Jews, even though we just heard that Judeo-Masonry and trying to shove all this weird stuff in our heads. It's hard to keep track of all this shit. And how these communists that came out of London, came out of New York, overthrew a Christian government, a Christian country in Russia. And now they are pissed off and they want it back. And they don't care how many people die. They don't care if every single Ukrainian soldier, every single Ukrainian young man is dead. They don't give a shit. They want that country back. And Trump promised he'd get us out of this shit, and it ain't gonna happen. In 2028, that war will still be going. So here's this SOB, this liar, this Canadian.
How to defeat cultural Marxism in America, which you were just.
How to defeat cultural Marxism in America. Well, you could shut your mouth for starters because you are part of it. This is.
Was talking about a second ago. And it really, I wrote this book because I, like you, like Americans across.
Oh my goodness, scream.
Across this country, am horrified.
I dislike him a lot also.
And at what's happening to this country and how radical everything has gotten. And in particular, what has happened is each of the major institutions in America have been captured by the radical left. And this book systematically goes through and it analyzes, number one, how and why.
He's speaking like an attorney. Nobody wants to listen to this crap.
Why that happened. Chapter 1 with the universities. And I refer to the university, and it spread to all of the other institutions. Chapter 2 is K through 12 education. And it went next to elementary school and junior high and high.
You know what? Yeah, we're not even doing this. He speaks about,
Anything that's occurring, any current event, they'll find good
why does he suddenly have more of a hairpiece on?
guy, bad guy. Talk about that, Senator.
Yep. Well, that's exactly right. If you go back to the origins of Marxism, you look at Karl Marx and the Communist Manifesto.
Okay, so that started in New York, and then he went and threw over Christianity.
Okay. And he viewed history as economically determined, as an inevitable conflict, a conflict between the oppressor and the victim. And Marx viewed it on socioeconomic terms. So the oppressor was the owner of capital, and the victim was the proletariat, the working men. And his solution was the violent overthrow, the violent revolution of the proletariat that overthrows the owners of capital. And it relies on force, on government power to forcibly redistribute from the oppressor to the victims. That's the original view of Marx. And in the 1960s and 70s, we saw the Marxists begin to invade universities, particularly the elite universities in the United States. At first, they were plain vanilla Marxists. They were focused on economic redistribution and economic power. As you noted, they then shifted the lens to other attributes. So race, critical race theory is the Marxist lens applied to race and viewing America as inevitably racist and a conflict between the oppressors and the victims, and the answer being violent revolution. You look at gender, and whether it is gender or gender identity, exact same. And when you look at what's happening with Israel, this is a perfect illustration of this mindset. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting down, I was talking with a very successful high-tech entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. And
tell us who this was, Ted.
He leans left. He's typically been a man of the left. And he was expressing complete bewilderment at the rabid anti-Semitism we're seeing on the left, whether it's the squad in the House or these demonstrations on university campuses of rabid
AOC is Jewish.
Israel, anti-Semitic protesters, threats of violence directed at Jewish students. And he was like, well, where is this coming from? And I explained it exactly as you just laid it out there, Charlie. I said, look, to the cultural Marxists, Jews are coded as oppressors.
Okay. So the Jew went in and overthrew the Christian. His name was Moses Mordecai Levy. Okay? That ain't Christian. That isn't even communist. That is Jewish. That is cultural. He's German. Okay, that is cultural. Excuse me. That is Judeo-Masonry. The Jewish people, or the people that are doing all the things he is saying, are all of Jewish ancestry and roots. And then he turns around and says, well, I have a left-leaning friend in Silicon Valley that said, where is all this coming from? I don't know. Where is it? And here is Karl Marx doing the Masonic hand in the jacket. I mean, you have to be careful with some of these sites, but so basically, without going too deep in the Ted Cruz bullshit, because he speaks really good and he plays a good game, he's speaking about these communists, but the communists are all Judeo-Masons. And they are intentionally infiltrating religions like Catholicism and Christianity to do damage, to make you scratch your head and think, what is going on anyway? And you're going to take your focus off of what is real and what is fake and what's really going on.
The late Father Malachi Martin spoke about the New World Order in the Message of Fatima, in the Secret of Fatima. And he spoke about the movement, the movement of capital goods, the monopoly on capital goods, the Message of Fatima in Russia and overthrew the Russian government. Quasi-religion created communism. Errors of Russia, which were the errors of communism. And I pointed out how communism had fallen in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had self-collapsed in Masonry. It is no longer the state quasi-religion of communism. The anti-religion of communism was no longer the anti-gospel of Russia. I said, but those organizations and groups that created communism, they're still very much around. And of course, I could sum it up in one word. It's called Judeo-Masonry.
Okay. Now let's do a quick search on Brave. She has distant Sephardic Jewish ancestry, noting that her ancestors fled the Spanish Inquisition. Yeah, this is already scrubbed. Well, we have elections coming up, right? She's also quite rich. They seem to favor her on this app. Jewish currents. What Ocasio-Cortez's Jewish heritage means. Now, you have to be careful. These search engines are completely reconfigured. Dan Bongino worked tirelessly to put this through. I mean, she does have that kind of a face. She looks more like Laura Loomer than a Hispanic woman. Many people know the Galilean city of Safed in the 16th century was a focal point for the Jewish mystical tradition. Oh my God. Here's a good one. Here's a sentence. I'm skimming. I know you're not going to hang on this long anyway. I was reminded of this history by last month's pronouncement by Democratic Socialist Congresswoman AOC that she descends from Spanish Jews. A pronouncement made just a week before a new genetic study showed that over a quarter of Latin American individuals do indeed have converso heritage. Perhaps unsurprisingly, instead of pondering the larger implications of the complex relationship of the left and Jewishness, Ted Cruz, many politically conservative American Jews were more interested in debunking her claim of Jewish heritage as if it was an attempt at affiliation with Judaism. Wow, okay. So we have to be careful. We have to take this really slow because you're going to get confused and it's going to mess you up. Okay, was the last part of this. In 1991, George H.W. Bush took on the Israel lobby and paid for it. In its article, How Lonely Little George H.W. Bush Changed the U.S.-Israel Relationship, the Times of Israel reports the 41st president beat AIPAC but lost 24% of his Jewish backing after confronting Israel over the settlements. It's a lesson U.S. leaders since have taken to heart. Ted Cruz. The Israeli newspaper states that Bush made clear the cost of an American president waging a political fight against the vast coalition of pro-Israel lobbying groups. In doing so, he exposed the limits of what the world's most powerful man can do when oppressed by Israel partisans. In 1991, Bush told Israel that the U.S. would not give Israel $10 million in loan guarantees until Israel stopped building settlements in the West Bank and Gaza. Settlements are illegal under international law, Bush stated. I think the American people will strongly support me in this. I'm going to fight for it because I think this is what the American people want, and I'm going to do absolutely everything I can to back those members of the United States Congress who are forward-looking into their desire to see peace. So in my opinion, my friends, don't ever expect this situation to change. The war against Russia will continue, and Israel will just murder and bulldoze over millions of people or whatever it is, hundreds of thousands of people until they get what the fuck they want. It doesn't matter what country it's in. Even here, they've already got you believing a psyop. Thomas Stein, the then executive director of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, declared that September 12th, wow, they love playing around with that mid-September shit. When Bush announced he would tell Congress the request for the guarantees must be deferred for 120 days, would be a day that lives in infamy for the American pro-Israel community. And this shows former Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir with Thomas Stein, the guest of honor at the Zionist Organization of America dinner in New York by David Karp. Stein lamented that this president did what no other president has done. He held a special press conference on this issue and challenged not just congressional efforts to proceed with the guarantees legislation money, but Israel's overall aid levels. He was just like, I'm not giving you any money if you keep going against international law. This is bullshit. Actually, once before, after Israel invaded Egypt and occupied Egypt's Sinai Peninsula in 1956, Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower had threatened to cut off more than $100 million in annual U.S. aid if Israel didn't withdraw. Israel withdrew, but first systematically destroyed infrastructure in the Sinai Peninsula, including roads, railroads, telephone lines, and all the houses in 2 tiny villages. But 3 decades later, when Bush was president, the Israel lobby was far stronger, and few dared to go against it. Haaretz said the pro-Israel lobby was shocked by the determination of the Bush administration to postpone congressional consideration of the guarantees, which it had carefully crafted with the Israeli government and expected to sail through Congress when the White House in early October. An AIPAC official had predicted that the guarantees would pass like a knife through butter. Making his case, Bush pointedly reminded Israel that just months ago, American men and women risked their lives to defend Israelis before the face of Iraqi Scud missiles, and that the Gulf War had achieved the defeat of Israel's most dangerous adversary. Referring to Saddam Hussein, it just never ends. Moreover, he said his administration had approved $4 billion in military aid for Israel, representing nearly $1,000 for every man, woman, and child, and had already given Israel millions in loan guarantees. During the onslaught, 1,000 Jewish Americans from at least 35 states descended on Congress, demanding the loan guarantees to go through to Israel. But Bush complained there are 1,000 lobbyists up on the Hill today lobbying Congress for loan guarantees for Israel, and I'm one lonely little guy down here asking Congress to delay its consideration of loan guarantees for 120 days. The lobbying had been organized with a conference of presidents of major Jewish organizations and AIPAC. Here's Netan going nuts as usual.
We will make our demands and they will make their demands, but we're not prepared to negotiate one thing: our neck, our head, our heart, our...
You know, I can't cope with this dude. Talk about a demon going to hell. Bush had long opposed Israeli settlements. His Secretary of State, James Baker, had told Israel in 1989, forswear annexation, stop settlement activity. Plus, communism ended under HW. Yet everybody, all the Zoomers, the boomer, or the millennials and all, I hate George W. Bush. Really? He risked a second term for the exact thing that you're bitching about day and night. Okay, I'm going to have to cut this one now because I've been sitting here for a while and I've got some stuff to do. So, wow.